The morning sun climbs over Jerusalem's eastern wall as a blind beggar settles into his usual spot near the Pool of Siloam. This is year 30 AD, and the man has occupied this corner for decades, his entire life measured in the sounds and smells of passing pilgrims. The clink of coins in his bowl being his only measure of success or failure. His name is never recorded in the gospel accounts. He exists as the man born blind, his identity being defined entirely by his disability, his personhood being erased by the condition that has shaped every moment of his existence since birth. The blindness is complete and congenital. No memory of light or color exists. His understanding of the visual world coming through descriptions he cannot fully comprehend, faces being voices, the sunset being warmth, beauty being a concept that exists only in others' words. Begging is his only option. Jewish law prohibiting the disabled from most occupations, charitable giving being religious obligation, his survival depending on the guilt or piety of strangers, the coins accumulated slowly representing the difference between eating and starving. The regular donors know his voice, pilgrims who come to Jerusalem for festivals, locals who pass daily, some giving generously, others crossing the street to avoid him, his presence being an uncomfortable reminder of suffering's randomness. His family relationships are complicated, parents still living but distant, the stigma of disability affecting the entire family, the theological assumption that someone's sin caused his blindness creating shame, his existence being burden and embarrassment simultaneously. The Pool of Siloam is strategic location, pilgrims coming to ritually wash, the traffic being constant, the religious context making charitable giving more likely. The water being symbol of purification, while he sits excluded from ritual participation due to his condition. Morning brings familiar routines, positioning himself where foot traffic is heaviest, calling out his standard plea, the repetition being mind-numbing but necessary, survival requiring the daily humiliation of begging. The sounds tell him what his eyes cannot, sandals on stone indicating approaching crowds, the accent and language revealing whether they're locals or pilgrims, the jingling of coins in purses suggesting potential donors, decades of blindness sharpening other senses. The weather affects donations, rain reducing foot traffic, festival days increasing it, the economics of begging being tied to religious calendar, his survival depending on pilgrim generosity during holy seasons. If you think miracles are just Sunday school stories, wait until you see what actually happened that day near the Pool of Siloam. What we're revealing today completely changes how you understand this biblical account. The religious debates swirl around him constantly. Rabbis arguing about whether his blindness reflects his parents' sin or his own sin committed somehow in the womb. The theological gymnastics treating his suffering as intellectual puzzle rather than human tragedy. His opinion is never sought. Theologians debating over his head, their theories being divorced from his reality, his lived experience being irrelevant to their abstract discussions, his humanity being invisible to those obsessed with explaining his condition. The disability isolates him socially, unmarriageable due to his condition, unemployable beyond begging, his social interactions being limited to commercial transactions, genuine relationships being nearly impossible when everyone sees only the blindness. The loneliness is comprehensive, unable to see others' faces, unable to participate in visual culture, existing at community's margins, touch and sound being his only connections, the isolation being as painful as the poverty. The morning progresses typically, a few coins accumulating in his bowl, the sun's warmth telling him the hour, hunger being constant companion, the day being unremarkable, until voices approach discussing him specifically. The conversation is about him, not with him. Men debating whether his parents sinned or he sinned, treating him as object of theological speculation rather than person. The dehumanization being routine, but still stinging every time. One voice responds differently, rejecting both explanations, suggesting his blindness exists so God's works can be revealed through him. The answer being mysterious, but at least acknowledging divine purpose beyond punishment. The voice belongs to someone called Jesus. The beggar has heard rumors about this teacher from Galilee, stories of healings and radical teachings circulating through Jerusalem, skepticism and hope mixing in equal measure among those desperate for change. The sound of spitting on ground reaches his ears, confusion being his immediate response, the action seeming bizarre, then footsteps approaching, the presence being close enough to feel body heat, the anticipation being mixed with apprehension. Hands touch his face gently, mud being applied to his eyelids, the texture being cool and gritty, the action being unprecedented, no healer having touched him before, most maintaining distance from the disabled to avoid ritual impurity. The voice gives simple instruction: go wash in the pool of Siloam, the command being clear, the location being steps away, the beggar's entire geography being limited to this small area he knows intimately through decades of navigating blind. The mud dries on his eyelids, the sensation being strange, the instruction seeming absurd, washing being ordinary action, yet something in the voice compelling obedience, desperation making belief possible when reason suggests impossibility. He stands carefully, the bowl being left behind, the few coins being risked, navigating by memory and sound toward the pool, the familiar path being traveled countless times, but never with such strange purpose. Other beggars call out asking where he's going, abandoning the spot meaning lost income, the action being irrational by begging's economics, but the compulsion being stronger than pragmatism, hope being dangerous but irresistible. The pool of Siloam is steps away, the sound of water being familiar, the smell being known, but the purpose being entirely different, the washing being not ritual purification, but obedience to strange command from unknown teacher. He kneels at the water's edge, cupping water in his hands, bringing it to his face, washing away the mud. The action being simple and profound simultaneously, the moment extending as expectation builds. Light explodes into his consciousness, overwhelming and terrifying and glorious. Colors being meaningless categories, suddenly becoming sensory reality. The visual world being revelation so intense, it borders on painful. His brain struggling to process input it has never experienced. The first thing he sees is water, rippling and reflecting. The movement being mesmerizing, the transparency and fluidity being concepts that words never adequately conveyed. Tears mixing with the pool water running down his face. He looks at his own hands, the first time seeing the appendages that have guided him through life, the skin being darker than he imagined, the fingers being longer, the physical reality of his body being both familiar and completely strange. People are staring, their faces showing shock, mouths open, eyes wide. The visual cues of emotion being new information, adding depth to reactions he previously understood only through voice and touch, human expression being decoded in real time. He stands and spins slowly, taking in the temple complex visible in the distance, the buildings being shapes and colors and depths, perspective being concept that makes sudden sense, the visual richness being overwhelming. His brain struggles to match sounds with sights, the voice that gave him coins belonging to that face, the footsteps he always heard being connected to bodies moving, the integration of sensory information being like learning an entirely new language instantly. The realization hits fully. He can see. The blindness is gone. The impossible has happened. The joy being indescribable, every breath being exclamation of wonder, the miracle being undeniable reality. He runs back toward his begging spot, needing to find the man called Jesus, needing to thank him, needing to understand what happened, but the teacher is already gone, disappeared into Jerusalem's crowded streets. The neighbors gather quickly, people who passed him daily for decades, their faces being new but their voices being familiar, the confusion on their faces being visible now, doubt being written in their expressions. Leave your like if this detailed reconstruction is revealing the human reality behind the biblical account you thought you knew. Some insist he's the same beggar, recognizing his voice and mannerisms, but their certainty wavering because the seeing man doesn't match their mental image of the blind one, transformation being difficult to accept. Others claim he's an imposter, the change being too complete, the idea that the congenitally blind could see being impossible, fraud seeming more likely than miracle, skepticism being default response to the unprecedented. He keeps repeating the same answer: I am the man. The identity being claimed firmly, the frustration mounting as people who ignored him for years suddenly question his existence, visibility bringing skepticism that invisibility never faced. The interrogation continues, neighbors demanding explanations. How did this happen? Who did it? Where is the healer now? The questions coming rapidly, the attention being overwhelming for someone used to being ignored. He tells the story simply. A man called Jesus made mud, applied it to his eyes, told him to wash, he washed, and now he sees, the narrative being straightforward, but the implications being revolutionary. The mention of Jesus creates division, some recognizing the name, others skeptical of wandering healers, the political and religious tensions around this teacher being immediately apparent in people's reactions. The Pharisees are summoned, religious authorities needing to investigate, the healing being theological problem as much as physical phenomenon, the miracle threatening established understanding of how God works through proper channels. The walk to the authorities is his first journey seeing, streets being wider than he imagined, crowds being denser, the visual chaos being overwhelming, Jerusalem being different city than the one he knew through sound and touch. The Pharisees' faces show suspicion, their expressions being readable now, their body language conveying skepticism, the visual information adding dimension to the interrogation, power dynamics being visible in posture and gaze. They ask the same questions. How were your eyes opened? Who did this? Where is he now? The repetition being tedious, but their tone being more aggressive, authority being wielded through question and implication. He repeats the same story, mud, washing, sight, the facts being unchanged regardless of audience, but the Pharisees focusing on details he considers irrelevant, the day being Sabbath being their primary concern. The Sabbath violation becomes the issue, making mud being work, healing being work, the man called Jesus having broken religious law, the miracle being less important than the legal violation, priorities being inverted. Division emerges among the authorities, some declaring Jesus a sinner for breaking Sabbath, others arguing that sinners cannot perform such signs, the debate being heated, the healed man being ignored while they argue theology. They demand his opinion. What do you say about him, since he opened your eyes? The question being tactical trap, whatever answer he gives being used against him or the healer, neutrality being impossible. His answer is simple and profound. He is a prophet, the conclusion being obvious to him, God working through Jesus being undeniable, the evidence being his own functioning eyes, theology being secondary to reality. The Pharisees reject his testimony, refusing to believe he was born blind, demanding his parents be brought, skepticism requiring ever higher burdens of proof, the miracle being too challenging to existing frameworks. His parents arrive frightened, the summons from authorities being terrifying, their son's healing being joy mixed with danger, the political situation making any association with Jesus being risky. Share in the comments. If you witnessed this miracle directly, would you have believed immediately, or would skepticism have won like it did for so many that day? The Pharisees interrogate his parents. Is this your son? Was he born blind? How does he now see? The questions being aggressive, the parents' fear being visible in their body language. The parents confirm his identity and blindness. Yes, this is our son. Yes, he was born blind, their testimony being certain on these facts, the evidence being undeniable to those who raised him. But they refuse to explain the healing, claiming ignorance about how it happened, directing authorities to ask their son, the evasion being strategic, protecting themselves from consequences. The fear is explicit. They know the authorities have decided to expel from the synagogue anyone who confesses Jesus as Messiah, social and economic death being punishment for wrong confession, survival requiring careful speech. The son is called back for more questioning, the Pharisees' strategy being obvious, trying to extract different testimony through pressure, the intimidation being blatant, power being wielded to maintain control of the narrative. They demand he give glory to God, the formula being accusation, asserting Jesus is a sinner, requiring the healed man to attribute the miracle to God alone, excluding the human agent, the theological gymnastics being transparent. His response is brilliant in its simplicity. Whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see. The personal testimony being irrefutable, the evidence being his own transformed life. The authorities return to procedural questions. How did he open your eyes? What did he do to you? The repetition being interrogation technique, seeking inconsistencies, hoping he'll contradict himself under pressure. His patience breaks. I have told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples? The sarcasm being brave and dangerous, challenging their motives openly. The authorities respond with rage, hurling insults, declaring themselves Moses' disciples, claiming to know God spoke to Moses, but not knowing where Jesus comes from. The argument being about authority and legitimacy. His theological reasoning demolishes their position. God doesn't listen to sinners, only to those who do his will. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing, the logic being irrefutable, the formerly uneducated beggar teaching the teachers. The Pharisees attack his character. You were born in utter sin, and you teach us. The old theological assumption about his blindness being weaponized, his disability being used to dismiss his testimony. Ad hominem replacing argument. They expel him from the synagogue, the social and economic consequences being severe, being cut off from community, from worship, from Jewish identity, the cost of testimony being everything he has, healing bringing new suffering. Jesus finds him after the expulsion, the teachers seeking the outcast, asking, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" The question being invitation, the healed man being given opportunity for fuller understanding. The response is honest. "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" The openness being complete, the willingness being evident, the journey from physical healing to spiritual understanding being offered. Jesus reveals himself. You have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. The visual and auditory being combined, the sight being gift, and the Savior being revealer. The miracle completing in worship. Stand near the pool of Siloam as evening falls, understanding that this miracle was not magic trick, but divine mercy meeting human suffering. That the blind man's healing threatened religious authorities because it revealed God working outside their control. This wasn't faith healing or psychological cure. The man was congenitally blind, the medical condition being verified by parents and neighbors, the healing being physical transformation of damaged eyes and optic nerves, the miracle being undeniable to honest observers. The healing challenged theological assumptions, the belief that suffering always reflected sin, the idea that God worked only through proper religious channels, the notion that teachers from Galilee couldn't speak for God, the established order being threatened. The healed man's journey was multi-layered, physical healing coming first, social cost coming second, spiritual understanding coming last, the progression being typical of Jesus' ministry, physical miracles pointing toward deeper spiritual realities. His testimony was powerful because it was simple. He couldn't explain the theology, didn't understand all the implications, but knew his personal experience, the transformation being irrefutable evidence, sophisticated arguments being unnecessary when reality testified. The Pharisees' rejection reveals spiritual blindness. They could see physically but were blind to God's work, their theological knowledge becoming obstacle rather than aid, religious authority being wielded to deny rather than recognize truth. Jesus' final words about judgment are significant. He came so that those who don't see might see, and those who see might become blind. The reversal being complete, physical and spiritual sight being contrasted, the blind beggar seeing more clearly than the educated authorities. The man's willingness to suffer for truth is remarkable. Losing synagogue membership, risking family relationships, accepting social death, the cost being huge, but the truth being worth it. Integrity trumping security. The modern church often misses the political context. This healing was a revolutionary act, challenging religious establishment, empowering the marginalized, revealing God's preference for the excluded, the miracle being threat to existing power structures. The pool's name, Siloam, means sent, the linguistic connection being significant. The sent one sending the blind man to the pool, the obedience bringing healing, the symbolism being layered throughout the narrative. Archaeological evidence confirms the location, the pool of Siloam being excavated, the first-century structure being found exactly where the gospel claims, the historical reality being confirmed through modern archaeology, faith being grounded in history. The man's later life is unrecorded. Whether he became disciple, whether his family reconciled, whether the community accepted him eventually, these questions remaining unanswered, his story ending at the moment of worship. The miracle demonstrates Jesus' identity. Only God's power could heal congenital blindness, the sign pointing beyond itself to the sign giver, the physical restoration revealing spiritual authority, the kingdom breaking into present reality. Medical science cannot explain congenital blindness being healed, the optic nerves being undeveloped from birth, the brain's visual cortex having never processed sight, the instantaneous healing and adaptation being impossible through natural means, the supernatural being required explanation. Which biblical miracle should we explore next? The feeding of the 5,000 and what actually happened on that Galilean hillside, or the raising of Lazarus and why it nearly got Jesus killed immediately? Leave your vote below. You've witnessed the human reality behind the biblical account, understood the social and political stakes of this healing, seen that miracles were not magic tricks, but divine interventions with real human costs and consequences. History and faith intersect in these moments, revealing that God's power transforms lives completely, that truth often costs everything, and sometimes the greatest sight is recognizing who Jesus actually is, regardless of what it costs to confess it.